Hello. Happy Wednesday, everyone. Y'all, it has been a while since I've been on the live stream. I have been moving and shaking and traveling and the whole thing. So I'm so glad to be back to see all of you. And today we have a very special guest. We're talking all about the social impact space, social impact businesses, and how online business managers like you can go work with them. So very excited there. Top thing I want to do, as always, is get everyone started with an intro question. Since we're talking all about social impact businesses, put into chat what causes you deeply care about. Put into chat what causes you deeply care about. Let's see. Female leadership. Love it. Yes. Women empowerment. Yes. Reproductive rights. Love it. Social justice. Y'all, these are so good. Environmental. Menstrual equity. Ooh. Can't wait to hear more about that. Fantastic. Awesome. So real quick, who am I? What are we doing here? Why today? So hello everyone, I'm Ashley Connell, CEO and founder of Prowess Project. What we do here at Prowess Project is we help women return to the workforce or pivot in their careers to be online business managers. We then match them up with their ideal clients, so CEOs who want to scale their businesses but don't have the time, bandwidth, or even skill set to be the integrator. So that's what we're doing here. And why I'm so excited about this guest is Prowess Project was built as a social impact business. For many of you, you know the story behind Prowess Project. It was all about, hey, I didn't know how I was going to become a mom and also continue with my career. Found the Harvard Business Review statistic that 43% of women lose their, or 43% of women leave the workforce to raise children. And when they return after 3 years, they lose 37% of their compensation power forever. But 97% of them would return if they had access to flexible jobs. And it was just such a light bulb moment for me. Like, hey, how do we help these women find flexible jobs? And that's why you are all here today and all listening on the podcast and all listening on our YouTube, because this is exactly what we wanted to do. I've spoken on several stages, South by Southwest, lots of panels, all about social impact and why it is so important for companies to think through making impact and profit. But what I also learned by talking to so many of you is you're like, hey, I'm a caregiver. I want to, if I am going to take time away from my family, my children, my parents, whomever I am that I'm caring for, I want to make sure that it's with a company and with clients who are doing something absolutely amazing in this world. And just give me a heads up, thumbs up if this resonates with you. Oh, streaming on YouTube. I'm getting lots of thumbs up on YouTube. Yes. Facebook, love it. Yes, exactly. And that is why I'm so excited to have Jess here with us today. And y'all, I'm very excited because Jess and I have been trying to get on this live stream for such a long time now. And I've been traveling, she's been traveling. And then we got to meet in person last week. And it was just such a pleasure. So without further ado, Miss Jess Sato. Welcome.
I'm so excited to be here finally.
I know. Finally. So I absolutely could give them a little bit of overview of what you do, but I'm going to hand that over to you. Give us the quick and dirty of what you were doing, how you got here, and why social impact. I just love it.
Oh, okay. This is so good. So probably like many of you, I grew up in the corporate world. I had a very, successful corporate job. And then I kind of hit that moment where I was like, holy crap, we are Tetrising our life. Every day is a game of Tetris. Like, do we have enough bandwidth? Can we go to the grocery store? I don't know. We don't have any food. And it was just, I kept thinking to myself, is this really why I'm going to work every day? Like, it just didn't feel right. And so I made the decision to leave my corporate job, honestly, a little bit undecided about what I was going to do. Like, a lot of people make that kind of corporate leap into something else, but I had the privilege and the flexibility to be able to just sit with that decision for a while. And I know not everyone has that luxury. So eventually I actually got called back by the company to do consulting work. And I feel like that's so common. Like, a lot of us end up working in some capacity for our previous employer. And I did that off and on with a couple of other clients over the course of like 7 or 8 years. And then in 2017, I was doing corporate leadership work in Ethiopia.
Wow.
And I had this experience. I had been there off and on 3 other times. I was gearing up for my 4th and final trip. And I got this email like less than 24 hours before I was supposed to leave saying, this trip was canceled. And I started freaking out. Like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I was like, where's the revenue going to come from? This was going to be like a $27,000 trip for me. And I just thought, I just kind of like went blank. And my husband casually said, don't you have a cancellation clause in your contract? And so I thought, oh, yeah, I guess I do. So I went and I looked, I confirmed, yep, I did. I was supposed to have 2 weeks notice. And then came this question of like, do I ask for it?
Mm.
I'm like, I'm doing work with a developing country. Yes, it's a big company there, but like it was a US aid contract. I mean, there were so many nuances to it. And finally he said, no man is going through this mental dilemma. They're just billing for it because that's what's in the contract. And so fast forward, got on a call and I just said, hey, this is what the contract says. And he said, okay, I just needed to hear you ask for it.
No.
And legit. And, honestly, it wasn't like one of those moments where he was just like, well, you have to ask for it. Like, he wasn't being a jerk. I mean, he like
Right.
literally needed me to like say, hey, this is in the contract. I'm going to invoice you. And in having that conversation with many, many women, it was like, they wouldn't have asked for it. Every one of them was like, I would never have done that. I would have asked for half. I don't know. I figured they would have, come around. I mean, it was eye-opening because here I had been a business owner, like 6-figure plus consultant for like 7 or 8 years. And I was having this like spiral of doubt. And the more women I talked to, I could see they were having these spirals of doubt. And I thought, what is happening with women-owned businesses? And why are we not able to close the gap here? And the ripple effect of that is so massive, right? And I mean, honestly, I love that statistic that you said about women leaving the workplace and coming, what was it, like less than 30% or losing 30% of their—
losing 37%. That's almost 40%, almost
that's mind-blowing.
Like, right?
But the same thing is happening with women in entrepreneurship, not asking for, or setting their prices appropriately. There's just so much there. And so I made the shift and moved away from corporate clients and started working with women-owned businesses. A big part of that is just my heart for women, and I am a woman, and there's all that's there. And I've done that since 2018. And in 2021, 2022, I really started to feel like I had built a business. So this gets us to the social impact side. At the time, I was just working with women-owned businesses, service-based, et cetera. And I realized that I had basically built a business that I didn't totally love. Like, it was much like the journey I had taken in corporate. It was like I had done all the things. I built what I was setting out to do. And I just kept thinking, I want to work with people who want to do good in the world, who believe fundamentally that business can be a force for good, and that if we are just intentional about our strategy, about our pricing, about who we serve, about how we serve, about our marketing, our messaging, all of that, we can really shift narratives. We can change actual communities. And so I made a pretty strong pivot to working almost exclusively with social impact businesses or people who are inching into that space but are not sure how, who have big ideas but don't know how to communicate them. All of that has really merged into this really lovely space that I happen to be in now.
Oh my gosh, I love that for so many reasons. I mean, you just hit uh, almost all the topics that we talk about daily at
Yeah.
Prowess Project. Like, hey, how do I get out of corporate because it's not meant for me? Hey, how do I start a business and I'm undervaluing myself?
Mhm.
Hey, I want to go do work that is going to change the world, not just get rich people richer. Like,
Yep.
we talk about that all the time. And I'm just so grateful to have you on here. And everyone who is here watching, feel free to shoot in questions. I have a ton, so do not worry about that. But first, I want to, like I said before, the vast majority of the women who are in our training programs or who are pivoting to be an online business manager, they they are doing so because they want to help the world.
Mhm.
So are you seeing growth in this space?
Yeah, big
And if
time.
so, what is that looking like?
Yeah, it's huge. So, there's always been a push for some social impact work, but I definitely see an uptick here. And that's in large part because of our Gen Z and our millennials, right? I mean, if you look at the data, I mean, it's something like 84%, 85% of them want to do business with companies that are standing for something good in the world, environmental sustainability, reducing their carbon footprint, social justice, whatever the issue happens to be. Um, and they're walking away from companies that aren't. So there's a strong business case for companies to really be intentional and authentic. That's another big, huge, in bold, must be authentic part of this. But we're even seeing it at the higher corporate levels. Like in 2019, Deloitte published a study where CEOs for the first time ever named that social impact was the key to their annual performance. So this trend has been growing for quite some time. And we're seeing it really start to show up with business, right? There's always been a strong nonprofit sector. There's always been, good work being done by governments around the world. Business fills this really important gap between agility and innovation and the ability to mobilize people in a different way. And so I definitely think we're going to see a continued trend in this space where companies are actively talking about and publicizing the work that they're doing. And we can talk about later the challenges that companies face with regard to this. But we're going to see that happening. Employees are demanding it, consumers are demanding it, and not just the company to consumer, not just company to employee, but the entire stakeholder chain. So your supply chains, et cetera. So we're going to see this become what I hope is just the way we do business, as opposed to like this one-off, like unique thing. My vision for the world is that this is just, we do business in a way that is socially responsible, serves others, elevates humanity in all the best ways.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so you said something really, really, really important. When a company is being authentic
Mm,
about their social impact or their
yeah.
promise or what have you, how how do you sniff that out?
I mean, some of it's just paying attention. I mean, humans are a very good judge of character most of the
Very true.
time. And I think if you follow a company long enough, you can determine whether or not what they're saying matches their actions, right? So a lot of times companies will say things like, we have a strong belief in environmental sustainability, um, but then you see no action coming from it, right? So that, I think you're constantly having to look for action and word match, right? And making sure that, businesses really are walking the talk, asking employees, asking people who work there, like you can really start to suss out, is this company being honest are they talking about these issues and taking action? Is it visible? And, like I said, there is a little bit of a challenge because a lot of companies, especially smaller ones who, are more socially impact oriented, they don't actually like to talk about this piece of the business, right? This a little Mother Teresa complex they've got going on. But bigger companies, corporations, um, you can always tell. Like I think about after the George Floyd murder,
Mhm.
there were a lot of companies who said a lot of things, but nothing changed in some of those companies. So you can, if you're paying attention, you can usually tell, is this company being authentic?
And so I love that. The vast majority of the OBMs who work with us want to work for smaller businesses.
Mhm.
And an OBM role typically fits with a smaller business. So you mentioned that smaller businesses have that Mother Teresa complex. Can you speak more to that?
Yeah, this is really challenging because if you're I'll just use myself as an example.
Yeah.
I care a lot about 2 things. I care a lot about women having opportunities for themselves, creating those opportunities for themselves and others, and I believe entrepreneurship is a really important way of doing that. So I want to work with and support women and communities of women who are pursuing entrepreneurship, um, and anything that and some of that's volunteer, some of that's for profit, and I find myself not wanting to talk about the volunteer stuff as much as the
Ooh.
the pay stuff because I'm just doing it because I genuinely care and it's not I don't need the satisfaction of publicizing it on social media. The other issue I care a lot about is gender equity and menstrual equity in particular. And for a long time, I would be doing stuff behind the scenes with nonprofit organizations, and I wouldn't really talk about this. But what I've realized, and this is where, we have to, as businesses, social impact businesses, OBMs who have a social impact purpose, we have to be vocal about the social impact. It is like the differentiator. So I started, like, for example, in fact, today, it's just ironic that it went live today, but I hosted an event in my own home to partner with a nonprofit organization called Days for Girls. And we were making part of their menstrual kit. And these, group of women came together. We assembled these things. And I thought, I need to talk about this because it opens the door to a conversation about the larger issue, which is there are women and girls globally, like 500 million, who do not have access to safe, clean menstrual supplies and the education that goes with it. So if I don't talk about it and it's part of my mission, I'm actually doing people a disservice. But that tension is that Mother Teresa complex. I just want to do good in the world. I don't want to publicize that I'm doing good in the world. I just want to do the good. But if you're a business owner, you absolutely have to talk about it because it's what helps move the needle forward. It creates more awareness and allows people to be a part of that journey. It allows people to self-select in to your business, right? And repel by extension those who are like, yeah, I don't get it. No, not with it.
I am so glad you said that. I am so glad you said that because we talk about that quite a bit. Everything that you say, as a business owner, as an OBM, whatever you are talking about your niche, you can be an enthusiast about it. You don't need to be an expert about it. And all of that is attracting like minded people who you are
Totally.
going to want to work with.
Yeah,
You're going to want to
absolutely.
work with.
Absolutely.
And so we talked about the growth of social impact businesses. And so to me, it would be like Prowess Project. We help
Mhm.
training to get women back into the workforce. It could be like Tom's, right? They give shoes,
Mhm.
one shoe to other shoe. Are you also seeing an increase in social impact consultants like yourself?
Mm.
Because I'm going to assume that our OBMs may have a better opportunity to find people like yourself to work with to edge into getting into the social
Mhm.
impact space.
Yeah, this is a really interesting thing because within this community, there is this constant question of like, who else is doing this? Like, I can't find other people. there is a growing community of people who are doing work with social impact companies, whether they're consultants on the business growth side or branding specialists,
Mm,
all of that, right? So there's definitely a growing space of people who are serving those as their primary client. I still see that there's not a ton of social impact consultants. There are some new certifications that are coming on board or have been been happening for a while out of Georgetown and Stanford and some of the bigger universities. I think Penn has one
mhm.
as well, that are geared toward people who want to move in this space or who are serving in this space or want to just be a social impact business. So there's definitely a growing community, and they're also still sort of difficult to find. And a big part of that, I'll say really quickly, is because we're all using slightly different language.
Interesting. Say
Yeah.
more about that.
So this is so funny. I work with a lot of social impact entrepreneurs. That's the language I use. And it's very common. But I was talking with some of my own clients and they're like, "Oh, I don't know if I'm your ideal client anymore." And I said, "Why not? I mean, this is like the most ideal client." And she's like, "Well, I don't know. You're talking all the time about these social impact entrepreneurs." I was like, "What do you think you are?" And that was a huge aha because I was like, "Holy crap, like this is not translating." So there's, very common terms, social impact entrepreneur, social enterprise. I mean, these are all variations of the same thing. But what I'm finding more often is people are identifying themselves as thought leaders, change makers, visionaries.
Mm,
So a big part of finding the people who are doing this is really paying attention to the language and having a kind of a broad vocabulary of who you're searching for and what terminology they're using to describe the kind of work they do, if that makes sense.
it makes perfect sense. And y'all, if you are serious about working with social impact companies, that right there, use the language that they are using.
Mhm.
Oh, that is such a good point.
Yeah.
That's such a good point. Oh,
Now, I
wow.
will say on the environmental side, that language is pretty standard, right? Environmental sustainability, reducing your carbon footprint, all of that terminology. I don't want to say it's completely baked in, but there's a lot that's very common. And I think it's a little bit easier on that side of the social impact scale, as opposed to the social side of the social impact scale. Just because, again, there's a lot that falls under those buckets. Some people are just very specific about the niche, right?
Right.
Menstrual equity, gender equity, education. I mean, so just really be open minded about the language in order to find the right kinds of people that you might want to be working with.
And Jess, I apologize. I was so excited about everything you're talking about. I don't think I even asked specifically what you do in the social impact space. I just got so
We're
excited.
just diving in. It's all
I
good.
know, I
It's
know.
all good.
Typical, typical. But
Yeah.
explain to everyone specifically where you fit.
Yeah, great question. So I am working with small to medium sized businesses. Some of them are still solopreneurs who are scaling into what I would think of as like a mid six-figure kind of business or beyond. Um, and we are working on building out their growth strategy,
I love
looking
it.
at, how we balance the purpose of the business, the impact side of the business, and the profit so that we're never losing sight of what the mission really is. And then making sure that we fine tune their messaging so that they can really messaging and offers, I should say, so we can make sure that everything that they're doing is very much in alignment and is actually moving the needle forward in the growth of the business. And sort of second to that, for a lot of the business owners I work with, many of them are pursuing the TEDx stage. And so we work on really honing in on what is the big idea that you're trying to put forth in the world? How do we find the right event for you and get you on that stage? So it's sort of two parts, but it all comes back to what is your big idea? What is the change that you're trying to create in the world? And how can you use your business to do that?
Oh, this is so exciting. Okay, so this is what I heard from the OBM lens. Okay,
Yeah.
I heard here is Jess. She is helping several social impact businesses grow, what is key to growth? Systems, operations,
Totally.
automations, technology, ops,
Mhm.
ops, ops, ops.
Yeah,
And so to me, that is such an opportunity for all
totally.
the OBMs.
Totally. And here's the thing I'll say for a lot of social impact businesses, especially when they are leaning more toward like, most of us are getting into business because we're really passionate about the thing that we're trying to do, the change that we're trying to create. And so the business sides, the business elements kind of are a thing that we have to do that we don't necessarily love doing. Like I can't tell you how many times I'm like, I just really want to go make period kits, or I just really want to go talk to this group of women. I don't want to do my finances. I don't want to build this automation. I don't, so I think that you're absolutely right. When we partner with OBMs, and I adore my person Riza, she is like literally my right hand. She literally makes it possible for me to spend more of my time doing the impact work. She allows me to serve the clients in a way that only I can do, to show up and be visible in only the ways I can. And she is doing the parts that light her up, speaking and writing about gender equity, about business growth, about, fill in the blank. So I think you're absolutely right. That partnership is so vital to the actual growth of the business. And most of the time, we are short on systems, short on processes, because we're just like flying by the seat of our pants.
And and that is all true. And what you said at the very beginning, that Gen Z millennials are asking for more. So these
Totally.
companies are going to scale.
Without a
It's
doubt.
just whether or not you as an OBM are going to be a part of it or not. So
Yeah.
I just think that is such a massive opportunity.
Yeah.
It's so exciting.
Huge, huge.
Oh my gosh, Jess, we may have to have a part two because I feel like I just scratched the surface talking to you
Yes.
about all of this. But in the meantime, while everyone is patiently waiting at their YouTube on our part two, where can people find you? Where can we learn more about what you're doing, following you, follow the people she follows to see more
Mhm.
people who are in social impact? Tell
Yeah.
us.
So the primary place you can find me is on my website, jessicasato.com. And I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. That's where I'm posting most of my content, and Instagram as well. Um, and I have a private podcast. So if it's a little bit raw and it's not fancy or super produced, it's just me talking about the issues that I think are relevant and are useful to business owners from a growth and an impact perspective, called the Purpose and Profit Podcast.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Y'all, we will put all of these links in not only chat, but also in the YouTube, just so you all have all of these. And a little birdie told me you may have a little something else for the rest of our
I
group.
do, yes. So, I find like one of the biggest challenges that people have is like, what's the roadmap? How do I get there? And so I put together like a 10-step roadmap of like step by step, what do you need to do in order to really build a business with purpose? So that is available, free resource. If you have questions, tag me on LinkedIn. Happy to chat about it, answer any questions directly. Um, my my true heart is about helping women be successful and to, like I said, create those opportunities for themselves and for others, right? Because sometimes it's not just for us, it's for our family, for our communities. And I genuinely believe, for many reasons, which is probably a whole nother episode, that entrepreneurship really is the way forward for women, and that we need to support each other in that process.
Okay. I am hanging up on this and emailing you and finding time for part two because
There's so much.
there is so much. There's so much, and it's all so exciting and timely. And again, built prowess for it with a social mission in mind. I could never even imagine that all of the women that I wanted to help want to help social impact businesses. And
Yeah,
if I can
amazing.
help that impact and Leah and I can be a part of that, I
Yes.
mean,
Just
cue
like
the
the
tears.
impact of
Yes.
the impact of the impact, like just like this massive ripple of let's make the world a better place. And that's, I think for a lot of people that just sounds so trite, but honestly, the world is on fire, literally.
Literally.
And we have the opportunity to really create a better place, a better community. And so being a part of someone else's ripple is just as powerful as doing the ripple yourself.
Wow. I mean, mic drop there, Jess. Mic drop.
Oh,
I love
goodness.
it so much. Okay, you will be back. You will
I will.
definitely be back.
Happy to.
And thank you so much, y'all. We will book more time next time because, again, I think we just scratched the surface. Thank you all for being here and excited for you to join us next week where we will be same place, same time, giving you more and more information on how to be the kick-ass OBM that you all have inside you.
Awesome.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.